and belonging for a
Yes.
long time.
Yes.
So one question is, how do you teach that? And I'm also tempted to, in a way, put you on the spot a little bit and say,
It's
like,
okay.
well, I'm curious, like, what has been the most profound kind of healing shifts that you've witnessed in the people that you've been offering this training to for 10, 20 years now?
I haven't. I haven't. Because in the US, the thing that I think is, and we were just talking about this yesterday, Robin, our ability to deliver diversity, inclusion, and belonging training was absolutely available to us, but there was a requirement that was unspoken, and that was we could not, I'll say it this way, our trainings could not make white people uncomfortable. Now, at the time, because we didn't know what we know today, we thought, okay, I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable in my training. Of course not. Of course I don't want that. And so off we would go, and we would create programs that would define, diversity, define inclusion, define belonging. We would teach people how we are more similar than we are different. We did a lot of those types of programs. We would teach people what is unconscious bias, what is implicit bias, what is cultural competency. We would do all of those things, but what we wouldn't do is really sit down and have a hard, real conversation, a real difficult conversation to really crack that whole system open and say, what does this really mean? And how do we really change it? Is it possible to change it here in the US? Because this country started with slavery. It's how it was built. We don't know a time without this horrible, vile thing. And so now, how do we get after it? It's a great question, but I think it starts with now, we've almost been given permission by society to have real conversation, to be able to educate people on what is a racist versus an anti-racist, because folks will always say, I'm not a racist. But if you're not a racist, are you an anti-racist is the real question. And if you really do honor that, then what are you willing to do differently today than you've been doing all these other years in your life? So it's difficult, Robin. It's massive and it's difficult.
Right, and it's also quite profound to me when you say, well, for the first 20 years that I've been doing this, we were told we weren't to make white people uncomfortable. So therefore we didn't really have the conversation that we need to have, and we didn't really have much impact.
Right.
So
that's
now,
why a lot of diversity, I apologize for stepping over you. That's why a lot of diversity practitioners leave the field, because you can't make progress if we just tiptoe around